6:40, perusing the week's news now on BBC One.
Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Jo Brand. In the news this week, after Mike Amesbury loses the Labour whip for fighting with a constituent, Nigel Farage approaches him to join Reform, but isn't taking any chances. On the first day of filming for his new open-air cooking show, Jamie Oliver regrets showing off with his opening link. And at Zito's, the barman hears that Angela Rayner and a friend are just a couple of minutes away. On Ian's team tonight is a stand-up comedian who once got chased by a crocodile. Nothing to be ashamed of, we've all done panto. Please welcome Nabil Abdul Rashid. On Paul's team tonight is a journalist who, in his spare time, drinks in a pub he's built in his own back garden. You do realise you can just go for a walk to avoid your family, don't you? Please welcome Tom Peck. We begin with the bigger news stories of the week. Ian and Nabil, take a look at this.
That's the budget. That box was black. It's been dyed. That's money. We haven't got any left. And, he's using a tool. And he's making...
They're retraining.
This is the budget, which seems to have been coming for about the last 10 years. But it's out today, and people were incredibly shocked, because it's the Labour Party are in power, and they've tried to redistribute some wealth. Unbelievable! You could have blown me away with a feather. Tom was there. You sat through it all.
I was there, yep. Tell the grandkids I was there. Can't leave them any money, but they will have the anecdote, and I'm sure that's what they would rather have.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, bus fares are more expensive, but pints are cheaper. Which means...
Yes?
The night buses are going to be less crowded, but the people on it will be drunker.
You get...
So, black hole well and truly filled?
22 billion black hole. Now it turns out you need 40 billion to fill it. Well, now you've got to add on the VAT, the Labour, parts. These go up and up and up.
And they inherited the black hole from the Tories.
Of course. I mean,
so you've got to pay tax on that as well now.
What was in the budget that a lot of people complained would stunt growth?
Was this the national insurance on employers' contributions?
Indeed.
People are debating whether putting this tax on employers will just be passed straight on to employees by the employers. But that suggests a lot of employers are not responsible, generous, kind and caring. And many of us are. So we'll be sucking it up ourselves.
It's a good trick if you can do it. You'd never leave the house, would you?
Labour got hung up, didn't they, on what counts as a working person?
Yes.
Now, does anyone here say they're not a working person?
I'm not sure my mother ever thought this was a job.
I mean...
But you make it look like one.
It's hard work.
It is hard work.
I mean, you must be quite upset, Ian, on behalf of all those non-doms who are going to lose their tax break.
Yes, I mean, I'm just devastated. The idea that Lord Rothermere, the owner of the Mail, may may lose his non-dom status. I mean, it's gutting. What sort of country do we live in?
Not the same one as him.
Jeremy Hunt was upset. What was he upset about?
He's not Chancellor anymore. It is funny watching all the former Chancellors saying, this budget, I mean, it really isn't very good. Liz Truss, she did, she criticised the budget. And you thought, look, the country's still standing. A day later, it's a good budget.
On the day of the budget, Labour released a report by the OBR.
The OBR.
That's right, the Office of Budget Responsibility, that blamed the previous Conservative government for covering up Jeremy Hunt's black hole, which kind of sounds a bit rude, doesn't it?
Speaking on financial related inherited black holes, there is one issue that politicians, well, most sensible ones have danced around, but a couple doubled down on foolishly. Now, I have some opinions on the situation due to some of my affiliations, but if you'll pardon me. Reparations. Now, if you're Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Polish, or from Birmingham, you're exempt, but the rest of you... Rub me my piece.
Right, I'll get my purse in a minute, all right? Now, what did former egghead and useless Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng say about the budget?
I think he said my budget wasn't perfect.
It was the understatement of this or any other century. Then he added but, didn't he? And then he went on to criticise this budget.
He called it naked class war.
That does sound fun.
I mean, if there's gonna be a class war, then...
Might as well be naked.
At least one Labour MP has been connecting with the voters. Who's that?
My guy. Don't call him Mike, call him Iron Mike. I like that. He showed more integrity than anyone we've seen in Labour recently, because if you watch again, you'll see every single punch was thrown from the left.
He is indeed battling Mike Amesbury, the MP for Runcorn and Helsby, and he had an altercation with a constituent at chucking out time, which was apparently about the forthcoming closure of the Sutton Weaver Swing Bridge, which carries the A56 over the Weaver. So, understandably, feelings were running high. So, this is the first Labour budget in 14 years. One controversial move was to raise the cap on single bus fares from £2 to £3. What the government don't seem to realise is that a lot of people have to use buses, especially if they bought a train ticket. Also this week, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has discussed the possibility of introducing a smacking ban. Sadly, too late to stop a fellow MP doing it in the street. OK, Paul and Tom, have a look at this.
Right, yes. There we are. Looks like she's laughing at him. So we're very close now to
Bye-bye, democracy.
Yes.
Watch it burn.
And mystery guest is... Hello. That's where he's been for the last 6 months. Yes, it's the American election. The polls are very close. It seems unbelievable from this side of the Atlantic, but there we are. Trump had a fairly disastrous or brilliant rally, depending on who you're listening to, at Madison Square Gardens.
People seem to be getting depressed by this American election.
Yeah.
I mean, I say just enjoy it. There's not going to be another one. Just get involved. Really drink it in.
Absolutely. The rallies had quite contrasting styles. Let's have a look.
God is good. God is good. Good morning. Please have a seat, everybody. Please have a seat.
might be seated in the presence of God.
We must crush jihad!
Those aren't the worst bits.
This is a balanced selection of BBC footage showing compassion, caring, Christian virtues and mad people.
In proper BBC fashion, we're not saying which is which.
No.
He was just trying to stage like a normal Nazi rally. And then he got in a real pickle because someone said something completely inappropriate about Puerto Rico, calling it a floating island of garbage.
Yeah, let's just see the clip.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right.
Stormed it.
Joe Biden has come back and accidentally said, well, his supporters are garbage. But, I mean, this is a guy who is no longer in the race because he got Zelensky and Putin the wrong way round, which, if you're sending $150 billion of weapons to one of them, you've got to get that exactly right. and we are now in a situation whereby the free world depends on whether or not Joe Biden said supporters or supporters.
Yeah, they're adding in an apostrophe.
Yeah, is it the plural or the possessive noun? America decides and we all suffer the consequence.
Do we want to see Biden's comments?
I mean, might as well if you got it,
Yeah, got it, yeah.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Oh.
Did you hear the apostrophe? You've got to listen really carefully.
Yeah, in an attempt to emphasise that he was speaking about a comedian, Biden's team issued a transcript of his remarks inserting an apostrophe between the R and S of supporters. The incident has simultaneously infuriated grammar Nazis and delighted actual Nazis.
And all he had to do was shut up. I mean, it's incredible that his only contribution will have been to win the election for the other side.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty mild compared to what Trump's guys have been saying. I mean, at the rally, there was a guy that said very strongly that Kamala Harris was the devil.
Yeah, and Trump complained because people have been comparing him to Hitler, having forgotten that his own vice presidential candidate compared him to Hitler.
Yeah.
Oh, let's hop back to Joe Biden for a bit. What's he been doing for Halloween? What? He's been biting a baby's leg.
It's a tradition.
No, the baby's dressed up as a chicken. He's an old man. He understands me.
Who is Kamala Harris supposedly struggling to reach?
Women? Is it women? Men. Everyone.
Young men.
Old women. Small children dressed as chicken.
Young people.
Yes.
Who are more likely to be undecided voters. Although here she is at her recent rally appealing to her more youthful supporters.
And I see all our leaders, young leaders here as well.
Now, how did the singing of the American national anthem cause controversy at a political debate this week?
Somebody was drunk. I can't remember who was a female singer, but she was a bit drunk and she swore.
Yes, indeed. Do you want to have a look?
Yeah, go on, then.
Can I go back? Can I go back, please? I got so nervous.
That is the American national anthem. The guy had his hand on his heart. He should have had his hand over his ear.
So this is the 2024 US election. Donald Trump is threatening to introduce the death penalty for certain immigrants found guilty of killing an American citizen, mainly to stop Melania putting a pillow over his face. And according to analysis, over the past few years, Trump's speeches have become darker, harsher, angrier, less focused, more profane, and increasingly fixated on the past. Sounds like me at Christmas. Donald Trump has been emphasising his personal belief in God and recently posted the following message. I love the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, I've broken all of them.
Exactly. I think that there is a catch. He sees them more as a to-do list. And so to round two, and as it's Halloween, it's the cauldron of news.
Is this a vape?
Yeah.
I'm going to be giving my cauldron a stir, and you've got to identify what comes out of it. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Paul.
Yes, so this is something about Christmas arriving earlier and earlier, and in about 10 years' time, it will be continually Christmas.
Do you know what this phenomenon is known as?
Christmas creep.
It is indeed. Should we see an example of Christmas creep?
Yuletide year long. Oh, I'm sorry, I ruined your Christmas creep
Don't
joke.
worry. I couldn't give a shit.
No.
Anyway,
That's the spirit of Christmas.
can you tell me any examples, any actual examples of Christmas creep?
Well, supermarkets have started displaying Christmas goods.
Indeed. Mince pies, have a guess when they went out.
September the 24th.
September the 7th, so not far off.
Wow.
And Christmas markets are also opening earlier and earlier, as this graph from The Guardian demonstrates. If anyone can actually work out what's going on there, I'll give you a mince
When
pie.
did Birmingham get renamed Birmingham Frankfurt? Wasn't Brexit meant to end that sort of thing?
Obviously, it was Halloween this week. Do you remember the boy who made a Halloween costume out of 340 Yorkshire puddings?
Yes, he was on the other week, wasn't he? We had a picture
He
of him.
was indeed.
Yeah. What's he done now?
Well, let's have a look at him and his dad on This Morning this week.
Here we go.
They played the ball.
Hey!
It was a great
Okay, guys, hi there. Can you see? Yeah, let me bring you round. Hey, darling. Oh, you're very greasy, aren't you?
Why is he wearing shorts?
That's the only question you've got to ask.
I don't mind the costume, but the chap's wearing shorts.
Shouldn't he be reported for battering his kid?
This is the phenomenon known as Christmas creep. Apparently, there is so much Christmas food in the supermarkets already that there's barely any room on the shelves for Easter eggs. No one knew I had a wooden coil until that fell out. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's your next one.
Generation Z, as I believe they're called, apparently don't know how to queue at the bar. Or rather, they do know how to queue at the bar. They don't know that you're not meant to queue at the bar. And apparently, they're doing it because they learned how to do it in the pandemic, when that's what you did, and they don't know how to do any different.
Are you telling me that young people today don't know how to approach a bar to get a drink? This can't be a true story, surely.
They don't line up along the bar and jostle anymore. They stand in a proper queue.
Isn't that to be applauded?
You got us through the Blitz.
Let's just have a look at a handy diagram from the Telegraph.
Oh, right, yeah, this will explain everything.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a non-pub goer, so I genuinely don't know. So who has right of way?
The person who knows the barman.
Most attractive person.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's one person who's in both queues. One has got his hands out, like his arms out, like he's got no hands. I can't believe that this is a true story.
No.
But in the old days...
Yeah. Which is define the old days, so Ian, that means the 13th century.
At a pinch.
Yeah. If you had the plague, you'd get free drinks. Pork scratchings, nah, it's a touch of the bubonic, I'm afraid. There's a topical joke for you.
Well, Well, the Daily Star said, if you're not willing to fight for your pint, what will you fight for? Gen Z are being told they shouldn't queue in pubs, but jostle with everyone in the traditional manner. I have to say that people have always queued up at my local Wetherspoons, although mainly to get in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Time now for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. Your four are Rishi Sunak, AI Michael Parkinson, Martin Carroll from Stratford-upon-Avon, and a tomato factory in Suffolk.
They're all AI generated. Michael Parkinson's been AI generated this week.
Yes.
Rishi Sunak revealed to be a robot. And those tomatoes are an illusion.
It's to do with identifying them. What did Keir Starmer call Rishi Sunak?
He called him Prime Minister.
That's right.
Because Keir can't get used to the idea that he's Prime Minister, which is shared by some other people. But they've all been wrongly identified.
Right. Yes.
Michael Parkinson's the odd one out.
You're right, Paul.
Yeah.
They've all been wrongly identified, except AI Michael Parkinson, who's so realistic he's been clearly labelled as AI Michael Parkinson to avoid confusion. And he's going to be interviewing real guests for an upcoming show. Here he is talking to the Today programme.
Good morning to listeners of the Today programme and actually all the listeners of BBC Radio 4. This is Michael Parkinson, or at least a version of me in this rather curious AI form.
Yeah, I mean, that does say, I mean, if you didn't know that was AI, you would never have thought it wasn't him.
After presenting his chat show for several years on the BBC, Michael Parkinson interviewed a range of celebrities, including Billy Connolly, Muhammad Ali, Billy Connolly, Helen Mirren, Billy Connolly, and most memorably, Emu.
Billy Connolly was on that episode of Parkinson, and apparently, at the end of the show, as the emu approached him, Billy Connolly said, if it comes near me, I'm going to break his neck on your arm. Why he said it in a South African accent, nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer to that. It's a mystery.
Who has Rishi Sunak been wrongly identified as, you did say?
Ramesh Ranganathan.
That'd be more fun.
According to some people, me, Big Zoo, and Big Nasty are all the same person. There's one black guy that's not on a diet. That's different shapes.
Let's have a look.
But it's a legal decision, not a policy decision. And the Prime Minister knows the framework. It requires serious consideration. And the Prime Minister knows the legal framework. He knows the legal framework very well. It's the same test for all licences that the Prime Minister knows. I don't think the Prime Minister is really inviting me to put that to one side. We have to... the Leader of the Opposition...
Idiot.
There we go. Keir Starmer was also wrongly identified by 10 million voters who thought he'd be a competent leader. Now, who has this man been wrongly identified as?
He looks like Rick Wakeman, but that's got nothing to do with it, is it?
Well, you're in the right sphere. Music we're talking about, but it's not Rick Wakeman.
Oh, is he Elvis?
What about the audience? Anyone? Paul Weller.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
that's right. So let's have a look at Paul Weller.
Yeah.
Where we go.
I think he was given a free breakfast in a cafe in Wolverhampton because he looked like Paul Weller but wasn't Paul Weller.
Wow. It was in Wolverhampton. He was actually out for a curry and he was approached 8 times for an autograph and had to repeatedly deny he was Paul Weller. But the staff would not listen and instead they put this on Facebook. The legend Paul Weller here dining tonight just before performing at the Halls. Such an amazing gentleman. A spokesperson for the restaurant told the Star he should not have allowed the picture to be taken if he wasn't Paul Weller. We thought he was. While one waitress said, we all had a good laugh about it. To be honest, I had no idea who it was. And finally, what was a tomato factory in Suffolk mistaken for this week?
A tomato factory in Norfolk. A brothel.
No. Dee Harrison from Ipswich was driving to work last Wednesday morning.
Oh, yes! She thought she was seeing the Northern Lights.
That's right.
And it turned out to be the glow from the tomato factory.
Here it is. Let's have a look at a picture. Apparently, Specsavers have genuinely now given her a free trip to Iceland to see the real Northern Lights.
But she's gone to the local freezer centre instead.
Time now for the Missing Words Round, which this week features as its guest publication Subterranea, the magazine of Subterranea Britannica, the society for fans of man-made underground structures. And we start with locals in Worcester resort to what to deal with rowdy seagulls.
Oh, I know this one. It's sarcasm.
Hello, Beaky. Oi, Beaky.
I had hand jobs, but I thought it said Randy. I've only just noticed it says Randy.
Locals in Worcester resort to contraceptive pills to deal with rowdy seagulls.
Are they taking the contraception, the locals?
This will stop the seagulls.
The contraceptive pill scheme is already used to control pigeons in Venice.
Really?
But not in Rome, because the Pope won't allow it. Next one. John Crawford from Glasgow was enjoying his back garden when what?
It subsided, revealing a vast Roman amphitheatre.
Yeah. I think that's right. When it collapsed to reveal a subterranean nirvana.
John Crawford from Glasgow was enjoying his back garden when he fell down a hole into a 12th century monk's foul water drainage system.
Holy shit!
Now, finally, pensioner calls local rugby club to what?
Pensioner calls local rugby club to voluntary services as a player.
It might be a lady pensioner.
Oh, calls rugby club to offer her services as a hooker.
Pensioner calls local rugby club to help her retrieve her remote control.
Oh.
She was 86 years old. She was called Angela Robinson and called the rugby club for help when her TV remote got stuck down the side of her armchair.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Robinson, if you're watching tonight, you've lost the remote again, haven't you? And the final scores are Ian and Nabil have 3 and Paul and Tom have 8.
Oh, well done.
On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Nabil Abdul Rashid, Paul Merton and Tom Peck. And I leave you with the news that in Runcorn, one local regrets asking Labour MP Mike Amesbury how gardening leave is going. There's a surprise for Good Morning Britain viewers as a stray camera gives us a glimpse under Susanna Reid and Richard Madeley's desk. And in Penzance, after yet another ship is lured onto the rocks, local estate agents regret selling the house with the sea view to Anne Widdicombe. Good night.
Sarah Cox shares the joy of reading with famous friends on iPlayer. Press red now for her book club Between the Covers. And in the latest Americast, trick or treating with Philadelphia's Republicans. Download the BBC Sounds app to listen now.